Hi folks, Dogface Video here. Today I'm going to make the most pointless power supply review ever made. And the reason I say pointless is because I found this power supply at Radio Shack when I stopped by to pick up some other little gigas, and they're going out of business again. So I bought it. We need it for a project. We're going to use it to power some test equipment that's going to actually end up running on some industrial vehicles. So we'll use this as a piece of test equipment on the bench until we get the equipment ready to go. So picked it up for 20% off. You know, if you could buy it, which probably by the time you're reading this, Radio Shack will be gone. It was $70 originally, minus the 20% off for the sale price. Picked it up. Just going to do a quick review, run it through the oscilloscope and see how it does as far as power supply. It really doesn't have a lot to it, but let's open it up and see what's inside. Oh, not even sealed. Okay. And some paperwork. So there you have it. On-off switch, plus and minus, warnings, only runs on 120, so if you don't have 120 where you live, this is probably no good to you. Let me get set up, we'll put a load on it and we'll run through the oscilloscope and see how it does when we power this guy on and off. All right, let's look at some voltages. Plugged it in, been plugged in about 5 minutes now, and it's got some voltage across it, 360-ish milliohms. I don't know if that's a problem or not, but when you flip it on, it's supposed to be a 13.8 volt supply. It jumps up to 13.9. We'll do the same thing through the oscilloscope. If you put a load on it, you hear the fan kick on, and that's when it drops down to 13.8 volts. So let me reset and we'll measure the amperage of this load. Now what I've done is I've got my load, which is kind of up there out of view of the camera, running it through the voltmeter, now set to measure amperage. We'll flip it on, see what we got. So it looks like a load 5.36 amps, 5.35. Now let's connect it up and we'll look at what happens when we power that on if it spikes. I saw the meter jump, but I don't know that I trust this meter on those instantaneous, so we'll plug it into the oscilloscope and see what it does there. All right, after a bit of playing around, found a little bit of a spike. Let me just trigger it for you here. So this is going into my Regal DS1054Z. This is the same one that I hacked in my other video, so if you want to see how I improved this little knob, go watch that video. Anyway, here we go, and there we go. So it looks like quite an earthquake. This is 1 volt per division, so we've got 3 or 4 volts both ways, and all sorts of jiggy jaggies right when it turns on. I'm about 10 microseconds here, so it's all but invisible at slower speed. It's kind of stuff you'd never catch on a multimeter, but it's there. If that causes you concern, well, I don't know that it matters because you probably can't buy this power supply anyway. So now what we'll do, let's reset this a little bit wider time frame here. We'll go to 200 milliseconds and go to a smaller one because this thing's going to jump up to 13 volts. So rephrase that. I want to go to a larger voltage so that when we trigger here, it will show on the whole screen. All right, 5 volts per division and contact. Oh. All right, first you got to turn it off so it will trigger. All right, now contact. All right, let's look at that real quick. There is buku calling mode noise in here, so I don't know that you can really say, oh, this is a noisy power supply, because these lights are dog's breath as far as common mode noise is concerned. But you can see when you turn it on, we're at 10 milliseconds here, you know, it goes straight up, and let's see if we can capture it on the way down. Oh, wait a minute. We're going to have to slow that down if I'm going to try and do it manually. Okay, and down. Okay, so let's look at the downward path. It looks pretty clean. Looks like as you zoom in on it a bit. Yeah, so right there you can see the bottom of the common mode noise. And it just falls out of the sky. So other than that first little glitch when it turns on, it doesn't overshoot. It just goes up to the 13.8 volts and then down again under load. So nothing to worry about there. Let me clean up this mess a bit and we'll open it up and see what's inside of it. Okay, while I'm opening this up, poor Radio Shack. You know, they really seriously could have owned the maker market, but they wanted to sell crappy cell phones and attachments for cell phones. They wanted to compete against every mall kiosk on the face of the planet, every little Verizon store, whatever. And yeah, they completely lost their way. But you know, I think, and I'm old enough to remember Radio Shack in the early 80s, and back then they weren't that great. I mean, it was just kind of a laughing stock. They had stuff, but really, so it's too bad. They are close to me now that they're closing, and they did have, you know, just some stuff. It was almost, you know, worth going in there from time to time. So they weren't great, but you know, better than nothing, which is pretty close to what I've got. Local to me here, Dogface has an awesome place called Railco, so I'm not going to cry too loud. All right, let's open it. Let's see here. So, looks like just glancing here first, I don't see anything that's particularly lovely. This here, it just looks sloppily wound, but probably doesn't matter. Tons of the hot snot in here, I guess, to keep things from moving around. The capacitors are Samox, S-A-M-X-O-N, Samoxon. The little fan there, I don't know. Again, I think I'm going to label this the most pointless power supply review on YouTube, because I don't know how much longer you'd even be able to buy this. We'll see. It's still early. Maybe they'll come out and us makers out there will be able to shop with them again, or maybe they're gone and we just buy everything online. So, all right, final thoughts on this power supply. It's going to do the job I bought it for. It's going to power on a test bench equipment so we can test it, make sure it's working before it goes out into our industrial vehicles. These things, I joke that when the computers are little, they're taught that if they're good computers, they go to the data center and they get nice clean power and have UPSs and generator backups, and if they're bad, then they go to my vehicles, and it's hot and it's cold and the power is, well, sort of there sometimes, and who knows, spikes and ripples and all sorts of stuff. So we have to go to kind of a great lengths to protect that equipment from that equipment, protect the computer equipment from the vehicles that it's going on. But this will be a good tool to make sure that at least in the lab it's got clean enough power, and then we'll use this quite a bit for testing that. So it's good enough for what I need it for, and it's too bad about Radio Shack, but you know, all things change, and hopefully somebody will come in and fill that space. And by that space, I don't mean we need another cell phone seller. I mean a space where folks like me can go to buy interesting little bits of electronic stuff, because we do it as a hobby and we also do it for work too. So y'all have a good day, and like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all later.